Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your number one podcast for all things Assassin's Creed. In today's episode, we're going to be taking a first journey back to Unity. Unity is, I think, the 8th game in the series. It's a very newish game that came to PlayStation 4. It's a fun game that seems to have garnered a bit more popularity in the past few months, which is great. So the aim of these 3 episodes, I'm going to say, is just to have some discussions, some fun, and reminisce about Unity. I'm joined by my co-host and fellow Unity addict. I'm going to call him James.
Hi everybody, Unity addict is probably the best way to describe me. Yes, hi everyone.
I'm also joined by Wolfie, who I believe is also a Unity addict. Or did we pick the wrong person?
No, I definitely, I do. Hi. Yeah, I do adore Unity. Unity is such a, it has such a special little place in my Assassin's Creed world. I love it.
So I think how we could start it off is we could skip everything and just do a whole 40 minutes about Arno and Elise, but I'm probably not an expert in that department. So I think the best part to start with is, how are we all finding Unity then? Like, our thoughts on Unity itself.
It was funny that you said we're going to reminisce about Unity, because as we discussed in my when I joined the show and we did my sort of intro episode last month, Declan, I'm experiencing all of these games pretty much for the first time this year. So because of the random way that I played these games, the random order, I should say, that I played these games, Unity was the last of the main series of games that I played, and I started it I think about middle of July, and I finished it, or finished the main story anyway, because I'm still exploring Paris and finding chests and completing Paris stories. But I finished the main story I think early August, so for me it's still very fresh in my mind, and I've missed the last 7 years of whatever else people have been discussing about the game, and I think it's fair to say that I'm just going to be honest, I'm in love. Simple as that.
Unity for me is that game that I love more each time I play it. It's like in my game rankings, every time I do a ranking, Unity is always a step or two higher than where it was before. I enjoy it very much. I've probably played it 4 times now, maybe 5 times, and I have 100%ed it 3 times. All the chests, all the stories, everything.
3 times.
3 times, yes.
Because I had it in my head, because I know I've spoken with you and with many people about Unity recently. I'm sorry, everyone. I thought you'd completed it 2 times, but you've actually completed it 100% 3 times. That's
3
amazing.
Times. Yes. Yeah, I've done the thing where I've had to create a new account on Xbox.
That's dedication.
Because they don't let you create a new save. You have to completely wipe out your save. Not really sure why, but so yeah, I've played it mostly on Xbox. The last time I played, I got a PS4, so bought Unity. That was one of the first games I bought for my PS4, and played it again.
Funny thing is, I haven't 100%. I've completed it, but I haven't 100%ed it yet. I'm hoping to on Xbox. But when I got my PS4, the very first game I actually bought was Unity, and that was back in 2017. Like, I didn't play it on launch, I played it in 2017, and I remember putting it on, and I wasn't impressed straight away just because of how much icons there is in that little map. I felt a bit swamped.
Yeah.
But it was actually, I think, what hooked me the most, and I know a lot of fans may disagree with me, is combat was better. Like, by Black Flag, I was bored of this very simple arcadic counter insta-kill. It just, I didn't feel like assassins would stand and let 100 guards run at them and just, like, with so much grace as a ballet dancer, slash them all down. Having Arno repose, parry, like a fencer, and time everything. It just felt more natural what an assassin would do in combat. They wouldn't stand still like an idiot waiting for someone at last minute, because as someone who's tried fencing and sword fighting with his brother, it is nigh impossible to parry at the last minute and whack them one. You have to have some insane skill. So I think Unity has some great combat, and I think just the mechanics in general are fantastic, except parkour.
Ooh, except parkour. Yeah, tell us more, Declan.
I don't know. I'm scared that I'm just like gonna get lynched by an angry mob of fans.
Well, I tell you what. Okay, so let's warm it up. Right. So I was making some notes earlier because I've got many pages of notes here, and one of the things about the parkour, in my very simplistic view, I'm not an expert in parkour and video game controls and all the rest of it. The parkour is okay. You need to put a lot of effort in as a player. You have to kind of sit there and watch the videos made by people like Jasers and Leo K and go and practice like you're in school. And if you put the time in, you can do these amazing, beautiful moves. But the game doesn't tell you any of that. All it does is it tells you to sort of run horizontally by holding high profile and forward, and on the keyboard it's space to climb and it's C to descend. So the game tells you very little, but the possibilities are huge, but you do have to put the time in. So perhaps the way of comparing it is that the earlier games parkour was easier to access, do you think?
Yeah, I do agree with you. Unity is definitely a game that you have to control, because otherwise it will control you. And you have to learn how to not let it control you.
Yes.
I do agree with that. Yeah. But parkour, I do enjoy the movement very much so in Unity. I think the world design itself was definitely designed with parkour in mind. For sure.
I think for me, the parkour issue with Unity is twofold. It's an issue that I've had since AC1, and as I replay AC1 and Black Flag now, it's still present. So I think the first one is definitely, it's a bit. I liked parkour being simple, just two buttons and away I go. It was just simple. And Arno's is a bit, control up, go down, descend. It's kind of like too much finicky for me. I just want like an easy way up and down. That's just me. But at the same time, I know everyone raves and says parkour's the best part of Assassin's Creed, and I don't enjoy it as much because a lot of the action, the assassination targets, the stealth is ground. The hidden play site is on the ground. In Unity, I think all the crowd events are on the ground. There's not much to do on the rooftops, and I know it's fun to escape, and I probably use it to escape, but I want to be on the streets, hiding in plain sight, walking amongst the people, and especially when you play Black Flag, there is got good locations to parkour, but there's no point because all the guards are on the floor. If you want to get into an area, you can scale a wall, but if you want to be an assassin and stealth it and use some assassination techniques, it's all ground level. So it's a bit of a divisive one because I know it's a very popular feature, and I do agree it's a great feature and a great addition to the game. Just to me, it's not the best part of the game.
Well, I think like in Black Flag, for example, you do have guards who will climb up to the rooftops. If you're trying to hide up on the rooftops, those agiles, they'll get up there and they'll fight with you up on the rooftop. You don't see that too often in Unity. You don't see the guards getting up onto the rooftops. You have guards up there, the snipers. They're all hanging out up there, but you don't see. I can't even remember a time when I saw a guard climb up to where I was in Unity.
No, I know there is one type, and that's just because of a hat tip to Ikrake, who I was doing some Unity co-op with the other day. And as we were playing, and well, we did pretty well. He did mention that there is one guard type in Unity, I think, that will climb, but as you say, it's pretty rare, and I'm not sure if I've ever seen it either.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't
but
recall.
I suppose, Declan, it's an open game, isn't it? So you can approach your target through the crowds, through the sewers, um, on the rooftops, how you like. I must admit, I do enjoy the parkour, and I enjoy the fine control that you've got, whether you're parkouring up or parkouring down, doing side hops and wall ejects and all the rest of it. But I can tell you, and I don't mind admitting this, that as soon as it all goes wrong and I'm being chased, all of my ability to control my character goes out the window, and I am just running through the
You're just
streets,
running.
dumping smoke bombs. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think it's absolutely fantastic to have it in the game, but I can definitely understand that it's not always useful, because it isn't always, especially if there's plenty of gunners, guarding a target. I would also just say, whilst we're confessing, to the things that we don't like, I don't really see the appeal of the parkour in the early games, but that might be because I simply didn't invest the time as others have done to sort of explore the world and find the routes and master the controls, which I've probably done more as I've played the games through this year. Your knowledge builds on what you've learnt before. So maybe the positive experience I've had with Unity is because I'm investing more time in it and I'm kind of learning from what I've learnt from the earlier games. But I'm sort of, I understand your point, but I suppose I would just flip it to the earlier games where I think, yeah, the free running's fun, but actually Ezio does like making those long unplanned jumps off of walls into random spots, which I haven't figured out how you control. So maybe it's just time and training. You can't. Okay, good.
I will admit a confession here is I see tons of people showing Ezio parkour and Altair parkour, vaulting and everything. I probably invested about 500 hours in Assassin's Creed 1 when it first came out, and 14 years later I did not know we could do half the stuff. Because
the vaulting is a very rare thing. You've got to have just the right setup of beams and ledges, haven't you, to do a vault, I think, in AC1.
I think that's what the best thing with Assassin's Creed is. As you did say, it's open-ended and always has been, so you invest the time in, and it's why I think parkour is a great part for the series, and I wouldn't want it removed, but it's definitely not something that speaks out to me because I don't like the feel of being a god up on high. I want to be in the crowd. I want to be the last person you see. You're just shouting stuff on the streets, and instead of someone just falling like Batman, someone's giving you a hug from behind. That's my approach. It's a bit weird, but I don't think.
No, it's not weird at all. So, okay, Wolfie, question for you: Are you? We've got this freedom in this huge city and all these different routes to a target. Are you sneaking through the crowd? Are you actually what I do is what Declan just said. I tend to go on the roofs and then drop like Batman. But what's your approach to these targets?
Yeah, no, definitely. I am a lover of the rooftops. Yes. A lot of times, even just transversing just across the, to get from point A to point B, a lot of times I'll hang out on the rooftops and try my best to not get down onto the ground. So I do enjoy movement, moving on the roofs.
You're all the gargoyles of Paris. Hanging out with the hunchback. I will admit, I think now I play on Xbox, I have been trying to invest a bit more time in to do the rooftops, and I think the greatest fun I've found on the rooftops is not the parkour, is if you get the Phantom Blade or you get some smoke bombs. It is so hilarious to drop one, watch the guards run around, wonder where it's come from, and then you jump in the smoke like Batman and just assassinate everyone. And then you just climb up the wall and you're like, what's going on here?
They never saw you. They never saw you coming.
Especially when I pick them off with the Phantom. I know I'm going off on a different topic now, but the Phantom Blade is, in my opinion, the best hidden blade of the series.
I agree. I love the Phantom Blade.
I love Ezio's variations for the pistol, the poison darts. Will never stop loving it. Don't really mind Connor's pivot blade, but
sorry, what was Connor's blade called?
It was a
pivot
blade.
Pivot
blade.
Pivot.
Oh, I do not remember that at all. wasn't paying close enough attention. To be honest, I did kind of sprint through AC3 in about a week, so a lot of details probably skipped me by. But okay, are we talking like a hook blade kind of situation?
It's
No,
similar, yes.
it had
Actually,
like literally he could take it, like it was on a pivot point, and he could take and turn the blade, so almost like and like he was holding it like a dagger type thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
if you it's like, and this is off tangent, and it's the biggest complaint I have for AC3, and it's tangent. If you do unarmed combat with hidden blades, which I'm so glad they removed, it's so unnecessary, you'll see that in one hand he has a dagger, and the other hand has a hidden blade, and that's just a pivot blade. But funny story, Haytham actually has the same moveset as Connor, so it looks like Haytham has a pivot blade, which isn't mechanically correct. He never gets a pivot blade, but that's just a pet peeve of mine.
Well, even in both AC3 and in Black Flag, even before they get their hidden blades, Connor and Edward they still have the animations. I call it the wrists of steel, because they still they still
good.
kill with their wrist. They don't have a blade. It's just bam.
That's fascinating. So they just play the same animation, but of course no blade visible on the screen. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Obviously, no criticism to the developers. Okay, you got limited time, it's fine. But that is quite funny.
I think that's what I love so much about Unity's hidden blade. It's what it is on its tin. It's a hidden blade. It's not designed to be deflecting blows. I know the bracer and the law can do it, but it's not a tool for combat. I know in Valhalla you can kind of break it, so if you hold down the left hand button, you'll stab people with the hidden blade in combat. But having it as just a tool for stealth is just the best idea for me, I think.
I'm going to add one more thing about the Phantom Blade, and the sound of the little darts being fired, that little shriek noise is just... I just want to make a general point as well while we're on the topic. Some of the sound design in Unity is just... It's one of my favourite things in Unity, or two of my favourite sounds in Unity: the sound of the Phantom Blade firing and the really satisfying clunk click noises as you do the lock picking. Whoever did that sound work, I take my hat off to you, because I love it.
I'm not sure that I'm not sure that I have a favorite sound in Unity. That's funny. I have to think about that.
There's a lot of chests, and it kind of eventually soaked into my subconscious, and I thought, I love this sound.
There are a lot of chests, that's for sure.
Yes.
That's for sure.
This is where I get another telling off by the fandom. I don't think I've ever played an Assassin's Creed game and listened to the sound effects. To this day, I've not actually heard a full sea chanting in Black Flag, because I have my own Spotify playlist for gaming, and it's all like heavy metal. So whenever I'm playing like Unity and Arno's like running wild, it's usually like Iron Maiden or something, and I don't hear like the swing of a blade. I just hear like the shredding of a guitar. Funny story, it actually times in. I think I was listening to Metallica's Enter the Sandman, and getting into a fight with 20 guards without playing was the most badass soundtrack ever.
That must be quite a different experience if you've got that kind of music playing.
I tell you, go watch a Valhalla trailer and then search for Blind Guardian's Valhalla, which is a heavy metal track. And I kid you not, Assassin's Creed just pairs so well with rock music. It's unreal. We don't need symphony, we need rock music. It works so well.
The mission where Arno and Elise have to, where she's in the balloon and he's running across the rooftops. That's one of my favorite missions in the game. But I do think that the sound, you need the sound, because you need to hear their banter. They have the best banter during that mission. So
there's my homework. Turn off Spotify, turn off can't play a game without subtitles, so I have the subtitles on.
Subtitles is fine. Subtitles are fine. Yeah.
And I'll go see what the banter is in the balloon.
Yes.
Oh, it's brilliant, mate. I mean, that's basically my favourite memory in the entire franchise. So I may have replayed that a number of times. I don't mind admitting that. But yes, the banter is excellent.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But the music in Unity too, just overall, I love the music. So, and it plays often. The music will play a lot during the game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is
And
anybody
just want to add, Declan, there's 2 albums of music. So there's Volume 1 and
Yes.
Volume 2. And
Yes.
depending on what you like, in some ways, Volume 2 is as good, maybe even better than Volume 1, depending on whether you want the sort of the Volume 1 is the story, the music of the story, and Volume 2 is more kind of atmospheric, and they're both fantastic. So there's your homework, couple of hours of Baroque and classical music.
I will listen to this. I need to listen to some classic music because apparently Beethoven wrote the hook for a heavy metal song, so I'm curious about that.
Oh,
Anyways,
okay.
that's a weird tangent. So, does anybody want a very decisive question?
Go for it.
Or would we say, because technically Origin is the first RPG of its kind, but would you say with the skill tree, the loot system, and how Valhalla then, how Unity works, will we count Unity as the first pseudo RPG before Origins?
No, I would say even earlier.
Ooh, I think we've
really?
got someone who thinks the same as me here.
Yes, definitely earlier. I mean, in even as far back as AC2, you had different weapons you could choose. You had different armor outfits you could put on. And then, of course, you had the option to dye your armor if you wanted to. So you could kind of role play differently depending on, again, the armor and the weapons you chose. Brotherhood was pretty much the same way. You had the different armor and the different weapons you could choose, but you also could choose the upgrades from Leonardo. So again, if you didn't want those upgrades, you didn't have to take them. AC3 had introduced crafting, and you also had the option to do the missions to build up the homestead. So getting more into that building up your brotherhood type atmosphere. And then, of course, in Black Flag and Rogue, you have more crafting, including crafting your health upgrades and your weapons holsters, but you also had to upgrade your character and your ship. So I definitely throughout the years, I think kind of like more and more RPG elements were being introduced. Unity came along, and certainly you had a lot of customizations with your outfits, but you also then had skills. I think Unity definitely was the first one to introduce the skills. So,
on a slight point you just made, I didn't even know Leonardo offered upgrades.
In Brotherhood,
No,
yes.
neither did I.
I haven't been able to replay Brotherhood since it first came out in 2011, so 10 years. I think I need to find a way to get my hands onto the Ezio collection. I need to see Leonardo.
Yes.
Don't
Never
miss
miss
the
the
hug.
hug.
Don't
Never
miss
miss
the
the
hug.
hug.
I did.
You have to start over.
Oh man, actually, I do want to replay AC2 when I've got over my Unity obsession. I'm definitely going to go back and replay AC2, so I won't miss the hug again. I promise.
The Ezio collection has been on my wish list for now for like 2 years. So, what are your thoughts on the RPG side for Unity, James? Because I'll say you've got more of a unique perspective since you played Odyssey, which is a very big RPG, and you've worked your way backwards.
Yes.
So I'm really would love to hear your thoughts because I'm the old timer that's grew through the series.
Well, I guess I started with the ancient Greek Witcher clone, as I often hear it described. So perhaps I do have a different point of view. We spoke about this, I think, a few weeks ago when we were chatting generally. I think on my first episode as co-host, and I'll kind of repeat my point. So Odyssey gets a lot of criticism from some players for its kind of structure and some of the decisions that were taken, and the sort of the even more heavily investment in role playing mechanics and character customization. There was some of it in Origins. You've Wolfie's just explained that it's been kind of coming for 10, 11 years, but certainly Odyssey took it to a new level. I must admit, I kind of never really spotted the different elements. I suppose up until Black Flag, when you very clearly got to craft your health upgrades and your gear upgrades and upgrades on the Jackdaw. But when I started Unity and I first earned my skill points and I went into the menu and I saw these options, which abilities do you want to unlock? Well, this is an ability tree. This is no different to me anyway. This is the same as Odyssey 4 years later. So I don't quite understand. I know that Odyssey's gone much more heavily into it. That's fine. But for me, it's kind of surprising that some players are so angry when actually these... And in fact, Syndicate has a skill tree, doesn't it? With
Yes.
slightly different branches for Jacob and Evie. And actually, I played
Yes.
Syndicate before Unity. But anyway, so it's been coming for a long time. Origins has a vast web of different skills and abilities you can unlock. So I suppose for me, to sort of come back to your question and try to answer it simply, I was kind of shocked to find it, but only because I assumed it was a new thing in the newer games. But actually then doing the missions and unlocking the skills was fine, because I was used to that way of playing. I think the mistake I made was I invested far too many skill points in lockpicking. I could have come back to the chests later. I probably should have got the double assassinate first, because I really missed having that until I'd earned enough points to do it. I suppose one point, and this is something that we discussed with Andy a few weeks ago, Declan, when you were saying that when you were playing some of these games some years ago, you had no internet connection, so all of the co-op was off limits for you. And I wonder, can you unlock all of the skills without earning ability points through co-op? I'm guessing you can't.
You cannot, no.
Right.
There are the sync points in the co-op missions that you have, the only way to unlock all the skills is to get all of those sync points that are in the co-op missions. Right.
So there's definitely a limit there for some players who just wouldn't be able to access all the skills. And you can't reskill, can you? Not that I've seen, without creating a new save game, which actually you can't do anyway. So you're kind of limited.
Yeah, you can't respec.
That actually ties on to the second question about the co-op, but theoretically, Wolfie is right. You cannot get the skill points from co-op. However, as I didn't have internet connection, I did try my hardest to get the skill points from co-op.
Mm-hmm.
I was crazy, and I timed it on purpose because I have about 2-3 hours a night to do gameplay, and I managed to, in one co-op mission solo, get a sync point.
Yes.
It took me 4.5 hours.
Oh, nice.
Oh no.
Because the way they're designed is permanently co-op. You try and do the skill points in solo, you've got to juggle all the objectives to try and do, and that's 4.5 hours of dying, repeating to get one skill point. It was the worst thing I've done in Assassin's Creed. And I kind of really don't like co-op in Unity. I kind of wish it was a separate thing.
The very first time I played Unity, I didn't touch the co-op at all. So that was the run that I did not 100% the game. The next time I played, I did discover, I like the first time I didn't even touch it. So the second time, I did play the co-op, but I did it all solo. I didn't play with anyone else. So I even did the tournament all by myself.
Wow.
Ooh, I literally rage quit at the tournament. I've never been able to do it solo. I'm the guy who's played Bloodborne and Dark Souls and never rage quit. Yet Unity's tournament made me literally have an anxiety attack, and I was like, nah, I'm done.
So yeah, I did. So the very first time I did co-op, I did it solo. But then the next time I played, I actually started going online and just playing with random people. Like, I wasn't playing with anybody I knew. I was just playing random people, and I loved it. I was on all the time going, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. So I'm a co-op addict.
I've had a lot of fun in the last. We've been doing it about 6-8 weeks as a group or as a clan through the Sisterhood Discord server, and yeah, I think it's great. Declan, we need to find you some Xbox players who you can
I have Unity on
buddy up with.
Xbox as well. I'll play with you.
This
Problem solved.
This actually ties into my third issue with co-op. If I've got anyone off, I do apologise. So I never buy Xbox Live. I think it's overpriced.
Okay, yeah, you do need that.
This is my biggest issue. I think Xbox Live is overpriced. I natively play free-to-play games, which has free multiplayer. Other than that, I don't touch multiplayer in games. I don't see the point in having dedicated Xbox Live. And I think I'm a bit more lenient when I look at like Black Flag's co-op because it's a separate from the main game. So if it's separate, there is a great investment in Xbox Live and playing it. But to have Unity that you cannot 100% solo, it means, to me, it feels like you're forced to go buy Xbox Live, which is a tenner a month. It's £120 a year on a single player game that you may or may not have the time to play because everyone has different time zones. And it's why like games that have drop-in drop-out co-op is fine because it has no impact on story, but Unity will always be a game that I'll never 100%, especially with the trophies, because I never want live, because even if I buy it, I'm wasting it on one game that I'll play once or twice a week. So it's
not worth it. Yeah, I see your point.
I just kind of feel that Assassin's Creed should stay. I know it's harsh to say, and I don't mean any offense. I think it should stay single player and have multiplayer as a separate component that you can. I think Black Flags was the best because it's a separate component, it's a separate menu. You can invest a ton of time in it and it'll get an audience. Just don't integrate it into single player and force people with no internet or poor internet connection to lose out on doing an 100% run because they've got nothing else to do, if that makes sense.
I'm not a fan of the older multiplayer. Brotherhood, Revelations, AC3 and Black Flag. I'm not a fan of that PvP type multiplayer. I did enjoy Unity's co-op, but yeah, if that's going to be the only game that you would buy it for, I wouldn't buy Xbox Live just for one game. Nope.
I think there is a great way around it. There's a game coming out, and I know this is off tangent. I'd love to hear James's thoughts as well as yours, Wolfie, called Scavengers, and it's just basic. It's like a battle royale survival, but it's PvP, PvE, so you can verse everyone or AI, real people. And it got me thinking, what if they took Unity's co-op and made a free-to-play game where it's Unity's co-op as PvE, so free-to-play, everyone can go team up with a friend, do some PvE missions, or if you want to verse real people, there's a separate side for PvP. And then that way you can like have a whole dedicated server where everyone can do PvE missions for Assassin's Creed.
That sounds a lot like the Black Flag approach. I don't know about the early games because I've not played their multiplayer, but in Black Flag you've got the different modes. So you have got Wolfpack, where it's just you and your friends basically having a laugh, running around stabbing people, bots or whatever. And then you've got Manhunt and a few others, which is PvP. I mean, for me, I don't play a lot of multiplayer. A little bit of Fortnite as a casual player.
Either.
No, but Unity co-op is pretty awesome when you are. I tell you what's a shame, Declan, is that there isn't cross-play.
Yes.
Because you're straight away you're in your box of I'm in the Xbox world, I'm in the PlayStation world, I'm in the PC world, and if your friends are on different platforms, you don't have a choice. It's a shame. Whether crossplay was possible technically back then, or whether Ubisoft had to develop it this way because of restrictions from how Xbox and PlayStation want to keep their network separate. I don't know. I'm not knowledgeable about consoles and their ecosystems, but the lack of crossplay is a real shame, because otherwise you and I could do some co-op.
I think co-op became a mainstream game about 4 years ago with Fortnite, because Fortnite accidentally leaked the possibility of it happening. But yeah, back when it first came out, it was just definitely a scenario where each to their own, but it was also in a scenario where me, who played PS3, was jumping from free multiplayer to, oh no, I now have to pay for multiplayer. Like, that's the biggest kick in the teeth for me. Was I love Call of Duty on PS3 because it's free online. I can turn it on, don't have to pay a bit of cash. Get it on PS4, get my internet fixed a few months later. Oh wait, pay us 60 quid a year to do multiplayer. It was like, I don't have that kind of money a year.
Yeah. It's a shame that that is a barrier to that 100%. If you're someone that likes to 100% games, I must admit, normally I'm not. Certainly not on the earlier games in this franchise. But I think Unity I will keep plugging away until I get there. I want to ask you both a question about the story and about something that wasn't obvious to me for a long time. So feel free to laugh at me, it's fine. I was thinking about this today whilst I was kind of preparing for the episode, and I remember when I started Unity and probably for the first 4 or 5 sequences. So sequence 5, we rescue the silversmith, and then we end it with assassinating Lafreniere. And up until that point, I couldn't work out where the story was going. And I know the game is called Unity, and it's kind of obvious now that the story is over. But I was trying to work out, all right, who's cheating who's going to double cross who's the bad guy. And I kind of assumed it was Mirabeau, because we see him talking to Monsieur de la Serre at the Estates General, and they're sort of concocting a truce. And I assumed that was where the story, or the antagonist of the story, was going to come from. And it was only when Arno rescues Elise from the Templar ambush, and then they meet in the Cafe Theatre, and they start to work together, that it clicked. I was like, oh, okay, this is obvious now. Elise is a big part of this story. The unity is them together, and it's a love story. And at that point, it flipped for me, and I totally fell in love with the two of them working together. But what I realised was, and this was only long after finishing the main story, when someone messaged me on one of our Discord conversations and said, you have seen the Elise reveal trailer, haven't you? And I replied, what reveal trailer? And of course it's there, it's available on YouTube. And I was thinking that, well, the point I'm trying to get to is, if you'd watched all of the trailers and the reveal trailer, I guess the meaning of the game and the whole point of the story would be obvious to you as a player. But to me, who's someone who just started the game and went into it, it wasn't obvious at all. And I wonder what role trailers have to play in setting up the game properly and making you understand where the story's going to go. What do you think, Wolfie?
Definitely they can be, I guess I should put it that way, they can be a very important part in kind of establishing what your game is about. I was not involved in all of the hoopla with Unity. By the time I started playing, Unity was already out. So it was only after later that I watched the trailers. I probably watched the trailers after I had played the game, but I could definitely see that trailer, the Elise trailer, for example, panning down. You see Arno running to rescue her, and then it's at the very end that her Templar medallion is revealed.
Yes.
And I could see why that would be a very shocking or intriguing moment. Yeah, I think trailers definitely can Sometimes they actually give away too much information, I think. But I do love a good cinematic trailer.
Oh, I mean the trailers for Unity are fantastic, and the Elise trailer is just it's brilliant with the music and everything. And Arno parkouring, to save his love is just great. But let me ask you a follow-up question. Did the story, at least in, let's say, the first third, did it work for you? Were you clear on where you were going and what Arno was doing, or was it just me sitting there going, I don't really know what's happening here?
No, I think it is supposed to be a little confusing, because I think we're supposed to be feeling how Arno's feeling. He has no clue what's going on. He's just out to protect Elise, and he doesn't care about authority. He doesn't care about the chain of command in the Brotherhood. He just wants to protect Elise, and
he doesn't really follow his orders, does he? At all?
No. So I do think I think it's confusing, but not confusing and so frustrating confusing. I think it's just we're supposed to feel how Arno feels, in terms of he doesn't care about all this other stuff. He just wants to protect Elise. So
that's a good point. He's kind of you're put into the situation where you don't know everything, and you don't need to know everything, because you are just another assassin in the Parisian Brotherhood. You're not actually an important character yet, anyway.
Yeah, we're kind of following along with him as he, as he does his investigations. We're just kind of following along with him. I will say that I was not surprised when he climbs up to the top of the church and it's Belek. I was not surprised by that. I probably had already figured it out, because Belek was so extreme. Yes, yeah.
He's not a happy guy, is he, Belek?
No,
he's not the life and soul of the party, is he? I'm going to be very interested, because if everything goes to plan in terms of our recording schedule, we're hoping to do an episode next week with Servalan, and do a bit more of a deep dive into Arno and so on, and his father figures. Not that we can't talk about him now, not at all, but I'm going to be very curious to hear more from her about Belek, because I never really saw any evidence of warmth whatsoever from Belek to Arno. He just seems a bit like a grumpy old man to me. But again, maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention.
I think there's an admiration there. I think there's a kind of a tough love stance that he takes with Arno, and eventually Arno is doing things on his own, and I think he respects Arno. I think he admires him, but I think he kind of wanted Arno to be on his side, or to see things from his point of view, and Arno just didn't see things that way. So
I'm gonna admit, listen to you two talk, and I've kind of realized I literally went off on the total wrong track with Unity when I first bought it.
Oh, go on, tell us.
One, I did not know there was an Elise reveal trailer. Like, my mind's blown.
I shall be sticking that on Twitter very shortly when we stop recording. Don't you worry.
It's a very good trailer.
It is.
I need to see. The only trailer I've ever saw and what wanted me to buy Unity was the E3 reveal trailer. Les Miserables style revolution. You're all banding together like a brotherhood, and then Unity. And I was automatically like, right, this game's about co-op. That's why it's called Unity. Right, this game's going to be terrible. Because
what you say there, that was my other interpretation of the word unity. Why would they call it unity? And it was all about, and I assumed it was all about you uniting with your buddies to go and do co-op missions. So yeah, it kind of really threw me off that it was actually it's a love story and it's great. But I just didn't spot that until sort of halfway through. I guess it was. I'll tell you what it was. It's after you escape the maze. Sequence 6, Memory 2. I just quote the sequence numbers for Servalan because she likes to quote a sequence number. And you're running down the street with Elise, and you're both taking the guards out, step by step, sort of leapfrogging each other. And it's just, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm running down the street with my love, and we're killing the bad guys. Oh, I'm there. Now I'm there. But it did take a while to get to that point.
I will admit, I didn't actually think it was a. This is where like things went tits up for me. I didn't think it was going to be a love story because
right
after what happened with, I keep forgetting his name, but Elise's father, and she says, "I'm a Templar, you're an assassin."
François de la Serre.
Yeah, I was like, right, I know what the story's going to be. Story's going to be he wants to save her because I think she's going to go rogue against the Templars. He needs to protect it. And I bet the assassins are going to turn him into a weapon to kill the very last Templar, which is her, so he'll have to kill her. But then, because I'm a strange gamer, I played the DLC. Because I never finished a game before playing DLC.
No.
So I played DLC. I saw the aftermath. I cried my heart out, and I was like, "What happened?"
Oh,
and then
no,
knowing
mate.
the ending, and I'm gonna be honest, knowing the ending before the ending was so. It made the ending for me more impactful because
I'm
I knew
sure.
I
You
knew
knew
what
it
was
was going to
coming,
happen. Yeah.
but it made me like look at every detail more closely. Since I was just having to play through a week, the hot air balloon ride. When you first see that, it's lovely, it's romantic. But knowing what happens in the end, and you do that balloon ride
Talk about
first
an
time,
impending sense of doom. My
yeah,
word.
it kind of kicks you harder. You know, the love, their embrace, they love each other. You know that how it's going to end. You know what's happened to her, and you realize how deeply he loved her. He basically tried to do his own thing against the Brotherhood for her.
Yep.
It was one of the greatest things. This is the creed for love, and it's that love that spawns the
I
greatest
like that, mate.
quotes.
That should have been on the marketing posters. This is the creed for love.
Well, I think, and I don't know how to word this, so correct me if I'm wording it wrong, but I think his love, if he didn't love Elise and didn't become an assassin for Elise, I do not believe it was to avenge his father. Disagree, because he never goes after Sheer. But I don't think he'll ever come out with a quote about how the creed is a dogma. And we've got to be wary of our own actions. If we kill and destroy in the name of the creed, we have to carry that weight. And I think after what happened with Balek and Elise, that would never have hit so hard with that quote if it wasn't for his love for Elise.
The dogma speech is definitely, yes, a result of Elise's death and also of what he experienced with Balek. Both of them are cases or examples of extremism. Elise was so consumed by her revenge to, for the death of her father. And then Balek was so consumed by his hatred of Templars and by his total disagreement that Mirabeau should ever try to make a truce with the Templars. I think it really, really impacted Arnaud. He saw the destruction. He saw the just the them being consumed by this hatred and extremism. I love Arnaud's dogma speech.
So do I. And I know I'm going to get told off for this, and everyone's going to say I'm wrong, and I don't mind. But when Odyssey brought up the whole thing about assassins being chaos and Templars being order, and I know people disagree with assassins are chaos, but when I see that extremism with Balek and Elise, I see the pinnacle of chaos versus order. Elise was doing everything with the Templar. She was trying to find a killer. She was being very meticulous, very orderly about what she's doing. She wasn't going around killing random people. She was being very orderly and precise. Whereas Balek was just breaking apart everything because he hated
What did he say?
Templars.
He said, to save the Brotherhood, I would see Paris burn.
Chaos. That's like the pinnacle of chaos. And I don't believe assassins are all assassins in the chaos and all Templars of the order, but hearing Odyssey talk about Odyssey, chaos versus order, you see that with this extremism, that the extremism of assassins is chaos. and the extremism of Templars can be pure order that's like a dictatorship.
And that's why Arno says the creed is a warning, because it's most assassins, anyway, are not like that. They're not chaotic like how Belek was. So, yeah, I do have. I don't think that assassins are in general are chaotic or for chaos. It's just one bad example.
Indeed,
It's why
and
I
I think
always.
if you look at the story and you look on the Templar side, the Templars are involved in a civil war as well. Germain is taking control of the French right of the Templar Order, and he's gradually bringing various disgruntled or rejected members of the group to his side. And he's pursuing, what would you call it? He's a sage. He hears voices and he sees visions, so he's perhaps not thinking clearly himself, or he's certainly got he's got a heightened sense of his own value, shall we say. But within the Templars, there is chaos. Murdering one of their own, murdering their Grand Master, no less, and then attempting to hunt down his orphan daughter. So there's an awful lot of chaos on all sides, I would say.
I think chaos and order can be applied to both. I think it's the best way to describe the extremism of both sides. The assassins could use all their power to create a dictatorship and no one steps out of line. Or they can go the opposite enemy, chaotic, and Paris can burn, so the assassins never join the Templars. And maybe the Templars are the same. They would burn a whole city just to raise a perfect order. Or they would rule with an iron fist and make a dictatorship. It's, and I know it's kind of off topic slightly, but I think that's what makes Arno's story one of the strongest, because there's a really nice love story between the pages, and it's a really great, heartwarming story.
Keep talking.
To see play out. But at the same time, it's like chaos, like fire burning, like in all this. It's what I talked about a while ago with the grey area. We are led too much to believe that assassins are good, Templars are bad, but unity with Arno himself kind of proves that no one's good, no one's bad. A unification of Templars and assassins could be good, but Belek doesn't want it, and I think that's kind of weird. But I don't know if I'm barking up the wrong tree there.
Yeah, I think with Belek, it's his. It's you're either with him or you're against him. He hates the Templars so much that he can't see any other way. And if Mirabeau was going to pursue this truce or pursue the peace with the Templars, what better way to end that? Just kill off Mirabeau. So it's one of those things that, with Arno anyway, I don't feel that he wasn't out to make peace with the, Elise was the only Templar that basically was still trying to function in a good way. All of the other Templars that Arno was offing, except for Lafreniere, he was okay, but he didn't know that. Germain had led him astray.
Properly, didn't he?
Yes.
Yep.
The rest of them, a lot of them, were definitely being portrayed as evil people. So I think I don't think Arno really saw it one way or the other. He just was, again, just trying to offer these people to get to protect Elise, keep her safe. So
there's probably an interesting point there if you were to sort of go back through the story in detail and talk about, like you said there, unintended consequences. Arno wasn't actually bothered about the revolution.
Right.
He wasn't particularly bothered about Templars or assassins. All he cared about was, as you say, protecting Elise. And he did many things that were yes, they were trying to further that goal, but what else did they have? What other consequences did they have? Like the assassination of Lafreniere. It's an interesting point. I have a huge amount of sympathy for Arno. I know he's not real. I do know that, but I can't help but feel so sorry for him. His
Yeah.
life was just misery, heaped upon misery. You know, I don't know if have you both? I think you have, Wolfie, because I'm sure we've spoken about this. But Declan, have you read or have you got the Abstergo handbook that was released with Unity?
And no, I didn't know it existed. I'm literally at this moment on an impossible mission to get as much transmedia as possible in every Assassin's Creed game on Xbox again, which is impossible to do.
To be fair, I think the bits I'm going to refer to you might be able to read on the wiki. I think someone may have typed them out in full, or I can maybe take pictures, whatever. In the Abstergo handbook, there are letters that Arno is writing to his father, to Charles, through at different points in his life, and they really do reveal a lot about his both the terrible stuff he's been through, but also kind of the strength and the stoicism that he has in the face of it all, and just that will to keep going. And what I can say is just very, very simply, I just feel sorry for the guy. He deserved a bit of happiness, and maybe that would nicely segue us to the ending of the game.
Yeah.
He deserved some happiness at the end. I know it's maybe a bit of a trope to have a happy ending where Arno and Elise ride off into the sunset, but actually, after all the misery they've both suffered over the last of their lives, actually, it would have subverted expectations in an Assassin's Creed game if they had both survived. And I don't think she needed to die for the story to work. And that ending, I really hate that ending. I mean, I got to respect it for sort of impact and the way it was presented, but I really don't like the ending, not at all. I don't think she needed to die.
I kind of feel that on one hand, I don't think she had to die. I think it could have played out differently. But I feel that on the other hand, her dying kind of pushes the game away from being like a cheesy sort of, cliche sort of romance. You're in Paris, the city of love, and some guys falling head over heels over a woman, and they're both right after the sunset. It can come off cliche, but I think it could have done well, in my opinion. But I would be interested to see what other ending they would have had planned.
What do you think, Wolfie, about the ending of in the temple?
Again, it's another example of her desire for revenge consuming her, and in the end, it destroyed her. She should have stopped. I know she didn't want to let him get away, but she should have stopped and helped Arno get up, because it really didn't look like that Arno needed a whole lot of pushing to get that rock off of him.
one more arm or another 10 seconds and he would have been out.
Yeah. I don't know. As much as I like Elise, she was really kind of out for herself, and I don't. She loved Arno, but I wonder if she loved him, was in love with him. You're probably not going to like hearing this, but I actually do think that she needed to die in order for Arno to grow up and move on.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm not going to, it's an interesting point of view.
That actually brings on to a certain point of view I've had, and I don't know if you've ever felt the same, but Altair and Maria. Is it Maria who lives?
Yeah, Maria.
So my logic is Altair and Arno share a lot of similarities. They both needed something to make them grow up. Altair, spends a lot of time as doing what he wants with the Creed. He's the master assassin, he can do anything. And he gets demoted, he still acts like he can do anything. But it's not till I can't remember which game it is or if it's Transmedia, that Maria is killed, that he becomes more focused, more devoted to helping the Creed and growing up a little. But I can't remember which.
We see her
we see her
death
death,
in Revelations,
in
don't
Revelations,
we? Yeah.
I think that's when he writes the Codex and the Messiah of Keys, and he makes all the changes. And I think that's about the time he writes the Three Ironies. So it's like a similar sort of feeling. Like Arno loses a lease and he grows up, which leads into Dead King's DLC, which is fantastic, and you can see that growth. So I don't know, I could be wrong, but
Still sad, you two. I'm still sad, all right? I'm going to have to go on mute for a few minutes, okay?
I do see a lot of Altair and Arno, which is kind of nice to see.
I suppose they both, I mean, again, I'm not sure we can summarise all of the games in right now, but they both, although Altair right at the start is a master assassin, he is demoted, isn't he?
Yes.
Right, after that very first mission, and so he's kind of starting as is it an initiate? Let's call it a noob. He's a noob. And Arno again starts right at the bottom of the sort of welcome to the Brotherhood day one initiation. So they both have to grow up, like you say, and they both then reflect at the end of their stories.
Yeah.
Shame Arno didn't get a sequel, really.
I would love an Arno sequel. Yeah. Yes.
So we may not get a sequel, but if Ubisoft was kind and lovely and very nice to us, and they went back to update Unity, what features would you want to see? I hands down want photo mode. That's all I care about.
Yeah, photo mode. I have in my notes photo mode and 3 exclamation points.
They needed it. I am sick to death of removing the HUD.
Yes. Yeah. Another really big one is, my gosh, that the Dead Kings DLC put up a warning that you are about to start this DLC, because when you get in there, you cannot get out of it until you complete like the first 2 or 3 missions.
Yeah,
that
I learned that the hard way.
So frustrating. Some other thing at the I want an explanation why Arno and Napoleon are going back into the temple, years later. I want an explanation for that.
Yes.
At the very end. Yes. Also want more details on when does he join the Brotherhood again? What events led up to him joining the Brotherhood?
You mean after he's kicked out? Yes.
Yes.
Right, because there's, yeah, I can't remember who I've discussed this with, but I did a little bit of research over the last few weeks to piece together all of the different dates from the game, the co-op missions, the novel, and what the information in the handbook. And yeah, he's kicked out. Elise visits him in Versailles and sort of drags him out of his drunken stupor and returns his pocket watch to him. And he's back. And that's it. And you're back in. There's a co-op mission, which if you sort of believe the framing of the game, the co-op missions are you as Arno and your buddies as members of the Parisian Brotherhood doing their thing. Because all of the co-op missions, one of the things I really love about the co-op missions, they're often tied to sort of historical points and so on, and various historical stories. But yeah, he's out the Brotherhood. She sort of pulls him out of his stupor, and then he's doing missions for the Brotherhood again. But why? They forgave him. They said, it's fine, we're running short on assassins and we need you back. It is a bit odd, isn't it?
Yeah. I would really like to know more information. So add, maybe just another mission or some kind of explanation as to what he's doing with Napoleon and how and when, how he gets back into the Brotherhood.
Maybe he's just like stalking them. Maybe it's like a rogue situation. Maybe he's like a rogue assassin, and because he's not killing them, they're like, well, we don't need to hunt him down. We can't be bothered. Just let him have his little fake fantasy. Make him believe. And every time he passes an assassin on the rooftop, like, hey, Anna, looking good. Idiot. What's he doing back here?
I know you're being lighthearted, but that's what I assumed was happening because I don't watch YouTube sort of reviews. I don't study the wiki until I've completed the game because I don't want spoilers. So sequence 10 is when he's Bottle of Solitude. Sequence 11 is when he assassinates Latouche. Oh, I'm getting wrong. Sequence 11 is Bottle of Solitude, then it's Assassination of Latouche, and then it's Supreme Being and all that stuff with Robespierre, and it's the end. So I assumed that all of that stuff, Sequence 11 and Sequence 12, was him as a, horrible word to use, a rogue agent, just doing what he needed to do for him and Elise as a couple, which also quite helps with the whole romantic, looking after each other thing. And it was only when I went back and studied all the dates and I thought, well, no, actually, he's back in the Brotherhood, which, as you said, Wolfie, doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Is he back in the Brotherhood by that point?
Well, again, it comes down to, it depends how much of a nerd you want to be. I think if you accept that the co-op missions that you're playing as Arno are truly missions that the council have assigned to you as an assassin to complete, then there's a couple of co-op missions that take place in June 1794. Okay, we're heading into super nerd zone now. So
I'm lost already.
he's kind of kicked out. Might be 1793. I'd have to go and look at my spreadsheet. There's a very big spreadsheet. But yeah, there are a couple of missions that he completes after Sequence 11 Memory 1. So he's been pulled out of his drunken stupor, which can only be sort of concluded that he's back in the Brotherhood because he's taking missions from the council.
Okay.
Which doesn't work for me because I kind of liked him as a rogue agent, and I kind of think if the game had ended and then he just wandered off to do his own thing as like an independent avenging angel or whatever, that would also be quite an interesting story to tell.
So this could be a bit of a headcanon for you because I'm going to play it under your fantasy. You don't actually get the co-op missions directly from going inside the Parisian Brotherhood. You get them from an assassin hanging around the streets of Paris. So what if he is rogue? It's just these are sympathizers of Arno. They believe him. They believe he's doing the right thing, and they're giving him the contracts because at the end of the day, he's not hurting the assassins. He's keeping to the tenants. He's being what they trained him to be. Just because he's not affiliated by them, maybe they're just like, it can't hurt a bit of help.
He happens to be walking by. Hey, I need some help. Can you come help me with this?
Hey, I need extra hands to raid this place and stab some guards. Hey, Anna, you free for 5?
Yes.
I mean, until about a half an hour ago, I would have said you can't do the tournament on your own. But as we know from Wolfie's experience, you can do the tournament on your own.
You can do tournament
so it's not even that.
I am trying this tournament, even if it makes me sweat and have an asthma attack. I will try it with anxiety.
To come back to your original question of what would you like to see in an update or a patch or a remake's probably a bit big. Did you have any more on your list, Wolfie?
No, that was those were it.
Okay, I have a long list.
Okay.
All right. You said already my first one, which is photo mode. My word.
Yes.
I mean, you can do it on PC with a couple of mods where you can freeze the game entirely, so everyone stops moving. It's really weird, and then you've got the free camera tool that you can move. I've
seen your picture and your video with the spotlight on the different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of unnerving. It's strange to see it, but anyway, you can do it, but it's a pain. So there's another one, and I remember you and I, Wolfie, were talking about this some weeks ago, where you can be in melee combat and then your various kind of commands are either ignored or they're kind of queued up. So you're panicking and you need help to get out. So you'll click the button to drop a smoke bomb and it won't drop. So you'll click it again, nothing. And then 10 seconds later, Arno dumps 3 smoke bombs. Exactly.
Oh, the input lag.
Well,
yes.
I mean, my guess, I'm not a programmer, but my guess
animation lag. Yeah.
What I'm wondering, is it having to complete animations that are queued up before it'll play the next one? I don't know, but certainly it's not a massive priority. You work around it. It's part of the fun. It adds to the challenge. I think, as you would say, adds to Unity's charm.
Yep. Unity has a lot of charm.
It certainly does. And another thing I would do is just a couple of graphical things. So you're on a synchronization point. You've got a beautiful view of Paris, and then the very large distinctive buildings are there in their glorious low polygon kind of models. And I think those very distinctive buildings should be sort of updated with much better models that can be seen at a distance. What else? I think Arnaud needs some additional outfits. I think he should have Monsieur de la Serre's suit available. He should definitely have Arnaud's start of game kind of casual outfit, because that's a cool outfit. And I think we definitely need his drunken, depressed outfit with stubble. That would be a lot of fun.
With the stubble, yes.
Absolutely. And I think we need some hair options. You know, I would like to have the option of having Arnaud with his flowing locks or up in a ponytail. You can see that I'm going for the hardcore kind of programmatic and gameplay changes here with my list. And I think we need an option to toggle his hood so we can see his beautiful
say
face.
hood toggle. Yes, hood toggle.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
You actually think that they need to fix the AI placements as well.
Go on.
You know, like how games pop in the AI in certain locations, so they know where they are and what they're doing.
You mean like on a mission restart? So if you were to restart a mission, you know where the guards are each time, or
yeah, something like that. And I'm sorry for cutting you off, James. You just made me think.
No,
about
that's
it.
right.
I was walking along a bridge yesterday in Unity, and the AI just popped in on the bridge rail. And as I went to like free run down the bridge into the river, I accidentally knocked the AI into the river, and I got desynchronized with killing an innocent.
Yes.
And I was like, why are you popping AI onto a bridge ledge? Because I am not getting desynced for killing a woman that I did not push off a bridge. She got there herself. It's the most annoying thing. I've had it 5 times where they've appeared on ledges and fallen to the death, and I get told off for it.
Yeah, Unity's charm.
I think that could just be our episode title, couldn't it? What do you reckon?
Yeah.
The charm of Unity.
Yeah, it's Unity definitely has had some issues, but I just don't let it bother me. You know, I've had I've not had any of the graphic face issues. You know, the classic ones, but I've fallen through the map. I've had situations where he's jumped and he's kind of gotten stuck and like he's stuck in the air, running in the air or whatever.
Oh, wow.
Yep, I've had that. But
I've had that with Eivor, but that's a very different game. So,
and then of course all of the floating things, people floating or objects floating. But it's never bothered me. I just kind of laugh it off, restart, and all's good. So
I will admit, the only thing that annoys me about Unity is charm, and I don't really get annoyed easily. I'm such a mellow person. Is when I got it on PS4 and I played for a good about 3 weeks with no charm, it was perfect. And then I got Wi-Fi, and I had to do a 6 gig update that it needed, and the update took me 48 hours to do.
Oh my gosh!
And I think I had about 5 megabits as my first internet. And when the update had done, the first thing I got, hard crash.
Oh no!
I was like, this game was working so perfectly, no issues. I had gotten near enough halfway through the game, perfect. Update, stuck in a table, game crashed.
Were you able to restart it? I mean, okay, or did you have to like restart the whole game?
I had to delete the save file because it got corrupt. And redo the game, and it worked after that with no issues. I was like, evil update. It took me 2 days for this rubbish. But on Xbox, it has been working perfectly, and I just gotta say that I do not care if Arnaud floats in the air or some woman wants to walk on a bridge that I push her off and get told off. I don't care. This game is fantastic. It's a must play.
Yeah,
exactly. I think sometimes the AI placements, it's hilarious. Like, I've had guards that are meant to fall on the floor when died instead, like the facepalm a door. Like, I think I saw James put on Twitter.
Oh, that
And
was a screen grab
yeah,
that someone else had shared, and it was just hilarious. Yeah, the guard just leaning perfectly straight. He's like he's
Oh
standing at
yeah,
attention, but he's just leaning his head against the door. It's hilarious.
I
he's
had,
got a hard
I had,
day.
I had one that made me laugh. That the guy just froze standing after he'd been killed, and I was just like running in a circle because I thought the game crashed, and the guy just like fell over, and I just laughed at him as if a gust of wind had knocked him over. The swish of Arno's cape had fallen him over.
They are nice robes.
Oh, they are.
But you know, right? So we're having a bit of a joke, and it's absolutely fine because I've seen, like, I think we were chatting about this earlier. We'll feel like sometimes you'll see an NPC moving, but their legs aren't moving, so they're kind of just gliding across the pavement.
Yeah, skating.
Yeah, skating. Yeah, it's great. But to try and make a serious point from it, because I just want everyone to know, if in case you already didn't, I love this game. I think it's so immersive and so beautiful walking around Paris through these crowds, beautifully rendered buildings, the lighting. It's amazing. And that's a 7-year-old game.
Yeah.
Imagine what they could do now if they had that focus on creating this constricted world with this level of detail. I still start it now, still playing it most days as I'm doing, like, collectibles and whatever. And I just think it's stunning. And this game was released in 2014.
Yeah.
I think absolutely it shouldn't have been released in the state it was released. I don't know how long it took for all the sort of major issues to be resolved. Didn't even have a PC or a console back then. I wasn't playing games. But as a technical achievement, I think it's stunning. I really do. I know Syndicate's very similar, but it's a bit more open as the crowds are smaller. Maybe Syndicate was adjusted during development, learning from the difficult lessons of Unity. Who knows? But I think it's an incredible achievement. It's so immersive. It's for me, it was a more real and more immersive experience than any of the previous games. And some of the previous games, like Black Flag, I think Black Flag's amazing. I love Black Flag. But there's something about that big city and those big crowds that's just fantastic.
Yeah, I would love to see future games, Assassin's Creed, return back to just the big city instead of a big country map. I would love to go back to just a city.
Yeah.
I think I'm a bit different. Unity, like, I'm never gonna lie, I think Unity is one of the best games to release for the PS4 for Assassin's Creed before Origins came out. It was literally the best Assassin's Creed game I had on PS4. I love it, and I still do now. But Unity just kind of just faces me with the whole problem that the entire franchise has, that they can do so much in single cities that if they want that magic, that detail of single cities, you're going to have to cut out about 80% of history. Or you're going to have to force history to be warped and, like, how do I word it? Fishbowl effect. Like, you no longer can get the one-to-one size buildings because you're going to have to cram entire history into a smaller map. I think this just kind of upsets me about the franchise a little, that it's about history, but you can do so much dedication to single cities that if you focus on them, you're going to ruin doing a lot of history. But when you look at Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, and a little bit like Black Flag, there's not a lot of that same detail that you get in one-to-one maps. They're still fantastically designed, and visually all of them are stunning, but you don't get that same enclosed one-to-one feeling of brushing with the crowd, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Unity, for example, is one of the best examples, at least in Assassin's Creed, of being able to go into the interiors. They really used the interiors of buildings very well, and some of the best eye candy inside buildings, marble floors and tapestries and chandeliers and mirrors and paintings, and I love going inside the interiors in Unity. So I think a lot of the design, like if you have a big country map, your focus definitely is larger. But when you have a city map, your focus tends to be a little smaller. And I think that with going inside the interiors in Unity was absolutely brilliant. going inside the interior of Notre Dame, for example, and like that, the confession mission, being inside Notre Dame is just amazing.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I do 100% agree, and I think it's what I love the most about Unity is just the amount of details, and I want to see a game with that level of detail again. But as someone who has been playing since day one, and someone who tried to get into archaeology because history is amazing, I understand that not all history can give you them one-to-one scales. Like, I would love to see London and Jorvik have that same attention to detail as Unity, but I understand that you couldn't have done Valhalla's story if London and Jorvik could be seen from a single viewpoint. It wouldn't have made sense. You know, you're outside, you leave Jorvik, and 2 seconds later you're in London. That doesn't kind of fit right. So it's definitely a hard balancing act, but maybe they should have like two separate teams, like one art team for like the interior and the details, and the other team for the map design. So as you said, like you may have a big country map, and I'm going to use Valhalla, but as soon as you go into them buildings, a separate team has made each building feel unique and immersive. Could be a good way to do it.
I think there's an opportunity here to do what you've said, but with DLCs. Let's pick Valhalla, for example, and I think we spoke about this some months ago. You've got your Valhalla base game where Eivor does her thing, visiting regions of England and winning their allegiance to support her cause and so on. But then you've got the three cities, Winchester, London, and Jorvik. And yes, in the base game, you don't explore every house. You don't sort of spend too long in each city. You do one kind of storyline, maybe a couple of hours. You kill the Order of Ancients and you move on. But there's absolutely no reason why a DLC couldn't revisit that location. And if you buy the DLC, you download new assets that are a much more detailed city with explorable interiors, and then with a story that's built to use that region in much more detail. I mean, I can kind of picture some of the main streets of Viking London from the game, but most of it you kind of sprint around and then you're done and you move on. But there's no reason why they couldn't, using the existing map, but then kind of expanding on it in terms of its detail, create those big crowds, complex stories where you actually have to know the locations and learn the locations and explore the houses, explore the sewers, work out the best parkour routes to enter and deal with a target and so on. It's possible.
It's possible. I think 50-50, I think I'll be slightly annoyed by that, but a part of me would love it, because the part of me that I can't afford DLCs, like literally it's like a Christmas tree to get one half the time for me. So going into them cities and seeing everyone on the internet say, oh look, I've got this DLC that's a tenner, look how much detail they make in the city, and I'm like, oh well, I'll never get to experience that because I can't pick it up. But on the other hand, it'd be like, that would be amazing, that would be jaw-dropping. But on James's point, I think what I would rather see is, I know I love it and it's a great story and it's a great DLC, but Siege of Paris, what if they just focused on Paris itself?
Yes.
That was the entirety of the map. I really still believe that in Wrath of the Druids you didn't need all of Ireland. Imagine if you had Dublin, just Dublin, and a location outside of it, so everything happened in Dublin. To me, that would have just been perfect. Like, there was a threat to Dublin, and you had to experience every inch of Dublin and its small surrounding areas to find the threat, and it's just so detailed and immersive that you're just locked in that city and you get that feel. And I think DLCs where you can have the Unity sized maps as a city for DLC would just be icing on the cake. It would give everybody what they want and what I want. I want a nice city with photo mods, but I want history. I'm greedy. I want my history and I want my nice looking games.
With Unity's DLC with Dead Kings, I do like the fact that they did take it outside of Paris. I mean, we go to Franciade, and so we do have another, like, a smaller city to explore. But what they did differently with that was they had the whole, 2 or 3 levels below. You had all of the catacombs, and it gave it an extra bit of dimension going down, going down into the catacombs. I love Dead Kings. Love it. Love it.
Let's talk
love
about
it.
Dead Kings.
Yes, please.
Somebody told me recently that it might be the best DLC.
You might have heard that from me.
I mean,
yes.
I played it. I finished it a few hours ago.
Yes, finally.
Do you know, I was thinking actually, I have played it already. I played it back in August, but I didn't remember it at all, which is weird. I don't know whether I was tired or maybe I was just worn out. I tell you what, we were just going on holiday, so maybe my attention was elsewhere. Probably trying to complete the story whilst packing suitcases or whatever.
Yes.
But honestly,
so you're only half paying attention to it.
Yeah, I think so, because aside from meeting the Marquis de Sade at the start, and then Arno handing over the Apple of Eden right at the end, I didn't remember any of it. So I feel like I've played it for the first time over the last 7 days or so. It's I don't really know what to say. It's fascinating in how different it is.
Yes.
To the later DLCs, how simple it is in some ways. But go on, Wolfie. You think it's the best Assassin's Creed DLC? Tell us more.
I do. For me, it's a very good bit of character growth for Arno. It's at the very beginning, it's dark and gloomy, and it perfectly matches Arno's feelings, because it was only just a few days before Elise died, and he is depressed. He's just about done with everything. He wants to get out of Paris. And then he meets Leon. And with Leon, he sees in himself, he sees what he was probably like as a boy. And this little boy needs him. And as much as this little boy needs him, Arno also needs Leon. And I just love it. I love the story between the two of them. And Leon isn't really too annoying. Sometimes kids in video games can be kind of annoying.
Yes.
But
he isn't, no.
He's not too bad. And then by the end of the DLC, things are a lot better for Arno. He's smiling. At the very end, Leon gives him the hug, and it just lights up his face. And the whole atmosphere of the game itself, the way it's presented, at the beginning it's dark, it's gloomy, and then throughout the DLC you get little peaks of sunshine. And at the very end, when he gives the apple to the assassin on the carriage and says, take this to Al-Mualim in Egypt, and he gets that hug. It is bright and sunny, and Arno's going to be okay. I love it.
I kind of think it's time for a confession, if you want.
Go for it.
This is kind of like... So I know how the story ends and what happens, but I've never actually finished the Dead Kings DLC.
Oh, I hope it didn't spoil too much for you.
No, I already know how it ends.
Okay.
Thanks to social media in the past, but as I said, when I saw this carriage in a new location, because it was a free DLC and I didn't want spoilers, I went to check it out. And after I got spoiled of the ending of the game and had a look around the map, I was kind of like, I'll come back to it, at some point. And after I finished Unity, I think this was the problem, because I knew how the ending, I didn't think the DLC had the same weight for me, because I knew the aftermath already. So it was just like, well, nothing's going to surprise me. So I kind of just brushed it off and I've never played it since.
Aw.
Definitely worth playing. It's
I
even
should.
if you ignore the story, just the there's a new weapon which is a lot of fun.
The guillotine gun.
Yes, it's just nuts. Yeah, don't discharge that in front of Notre Dame. That is a good way of clearing the crowd, as I found out the other day. What was I going to say? Yeah, so you get a new sort of melee and ranged weapon, which is just hilarious. But also there's a couple of sort of new mechanics with your they're not guards. Are they called grave diggers or excavators? They've got a different name, haven't they? The people you meet in the catacombs
with the little star above their head.
Exactly. That's it. So if you knock out the leader, then the others flee. So, and it's got, and again, I've totally forgotten this until I replayed it today. Actually, I've got a question for you in a minute, Wolfie. I'm going to come back to this. It's got the proper kind of parkour routes like we had in Brotherhood in the tunnels with the Romulus group. And in Revelations, where you're looking for the keys, for example, in the Maiden Tower and all the rest of it. So you've got these proper kind of nice callback to the earlier games with their sort of complex parkour routes and so on. So it is a lot of fun. But I got my question for you, Wolfie, is right. I don't know if you will remember sort of it in detail, but there are a couple of puzzles that you have to solve. And the one that I gave up on and I had to look up was the horse puzzle, where you've got the 4 pictures of the 4 horses and you're supposed to work out what order to light the lamps. I could see no clue as to what, these games are supposed to be solvable, right? The developers are not silly. They know they need to give their players clues, whether there's numbering or different glowing patterns or something. And I was looking at the horse thinking, well, maybe
I've never found
the
key. I've never found the key for that one.
Right.
I've looked it up too.
Okay, I feel good now because I gave up and I had to look it up. I could see no visible clue as to what order. Maybe you're just supposed to do it randomly until you get it right, but
Nope.
So yeah, Declan, it's a really good story, and this might sound like a criticism. It's really not. It's really short. You can probably do it in about 3 hours, maybe 2 hours, and just complete the story, have a good time. And there's some challenging levels in there too.
I might have a look. I do need to play more Assassin's Creed. Now the Game Pass has ended, my time's free up, it's time to get back on the Black Flag and the Unity, but I am hoping to eventually get the Ezio collection. I miss Ezio. Because apparently that's got DLCs, because this is the fun thing. I think this is why Dead Kings became such a problem for me. It wasn't until I joined the Sisterhood server and was actually when I started doing the podcast, actually, not the Sisterhood server, that I knew that there was DLC for the past games.
Yes.
I've not had Wi-Fi for the majority of my life or anything, so I played Assassin's Creed 2 Birth of Revelations knowing there was no DLC or extra content. I didn't know 3 had DLC, all 4.
Mm-hmm.
So when I play Unity
for 4 then, because 3 is the Tyranny of King Washington, but what's the DLC for Black Flag?
Freedom Cry.
Yeah, but it's kind of like a spin-off.
I've totally forgot about that. Yeah, okay.
So when I play Unity and there's this free DLC story, I kind of had no expectations of what these DLCs do, whether Skyrim DLCs where there's no connection to the main game, there's just sub-stories, which is why I kind of pressed it. Oh, a sub-story, I can get 10 more hours out of Unity before doing the end. Still regret it to this day. I should not have opened that DLC.
Yeah.
Darn.
They need some better warning system on that one. It's very, very frustrating. I mean, we get a lot of people on the subreddit, even just not too long ago. You can't get out of it. I'm sorry. You have to just keep playing a few more missions before you can get the little P on your map to get back to Paris.
Yes. So. Oh, on the topic of that little P, so I had finished this is coming back now. When I had finished, I was playing Dead Kings the first time, so this will be about 8 weeks ago, and I must have done enough missions to unlock the P. But I think I got the pop-up, your chest is full in the Café Theatre. I thought, well, that's fine, I'll just go back to Paris. Could I find the fast travel point? I'm as blind as a bat. I could not. I didn't know the little P was the signal to return to Paris. So yeah, that was a proper Muppet moment of staring at the map, trying to work out what the hell I was doing wrong. So happy days. Talking of the Dead Kings DLC, which takes place in Franciard or Saint Denis. We spoke about this, Declan and I, when we were doing our sort of Siege of Paris review a few weeks ago. What links did you find, Wolfie, or did you not find that you were looking for when you were playing Siege of Paris? What did you find that connected it to Unity?
Certainly, just the name alone, Saint Denis, going into the basilica, but then running outside of the basilica and finding the little trap door or the little door down into underneath the basilica. That for me was really a lot of a throwback, I guess, to Unity. But of course, having the same voice actor for Pierre,
yes,
for Dangenot, to have him reprise his Paris role, I guess, that really meant more to me than anything. And it was funny because as soon as Pierre started talking, I was like, that sounds just like Arno. And because I was playing it in early access again, and I had sent off a message to somebody else who I knew was also playing. I was like, this has to be Arno. And they're like, oh, I don't know, it kind of. And even my some of the other people were like, I don't know, it just doesn't sound like him. Like, it is him. So it was kind of neat. It was a neat throwback.
But it was, you could be forgiven because this time he was doing kind of French Arno, not sort of proper well-spoken English Arno,
Yes.
So bit of a different accent this time.
Yeah. Why do they speak with English accents? We get that. Who knows?
I think it didn't. Do you know what? It never bothered me during the game, and it still doesn't going back and playing it, because I can understand that from an international point of view, if you sort of go all in on a Parisian accent and you're selling this game to countries, because they're only going to dub the game in so many languages worldwide. So I'm sure there's a lot of players out there who will just play in English with subtitles or just English. So it probably makes sense from an understanding point of view to go with kind of a sort of very clean spoken, because I would say that Elise's voice at times is verging on very upper class English with how she pronounces some of her words. And I was going to say something else, which I've totally forgotten. So Declan, over to you.
So I have a headcanon for the language, if anyone's interested.
I do too.
Go for it.
We may be on the same wavelength. So it's kind of been on my brain since Black Flag. So we know that Abstergo is moving to entertainment franchise. This is a big thing. We know Unity is the Helix project. It's like a video game. It's why you're getting hacked. So my headcanon is they are talking in a French accent. That's the memory. But because it's an entertainment program, it's been automatically dubbed by Abstergo, so it's more replayable by the initiates or whoever buys the game. So logically, in my mind, if somebody from a different culture was to buy it, so someone in France bought it, they would only speak French, not English with an accent. If they were from anywhere else, so you see the wavelength I'm going on. They are talking French, but it's just dubbed English to go with the whole theme of being an entertainment project.
That's pretty much how I feel too. You are playing when you're playing Unity, you're in a simulator.
True.
You're not, So the languages or whatever are just made for general audiences. It's made so everybody can understand it, type thing. So
This is why the Animus is great, because you can explain away a lot of stuff.
Yes, you can.
This is why I've always argued for years. It's simulation, not time travel.
Yes.
You
Yes.
literally can do any. You could literally, in the Animus, theoretically, throw Queen Elizabeth into the Thames. You're not changing history. You're not breaking history. You're just simulating throwing Queen Elizabeth into the Thames. That's always been my answer. As long as like they don't actually say this legitimately happened in history, you're just changing the simulation. It's all good.
Well, it's the same thing with, I was going to say, it's the same thing with even the older games when it was memory, memory based, like the Ezio games or whatever. Do we really think that Ezio killed all the guards every single time?
Good point.
No. It's the player themselves in the simulator who is killing all the guards.
Was it Darby who said that when people argued that choice wasn't canon, and he made like, well, you can choose to stealth this location or you can choose to be a combat. Assassin's Creed's always been choice because it's just assimilating the choices.
Yeah, he did, and he also added that you can make an argument, which I think he was sort of supporting, which is that human memories fade, human memory is not reliable, and therefore that is the gap that the writers can use, if you like, through the Animus to say that there is choice about how Ezio killed that target, or what option Cassandra took when she, is presented with a dialogue option. I know not everyone likes the dialogue options, that's absolutely fine, but yeah, he was kind of saying that there's absolutely gaps in the framing, which we can explain, and gives, I suppose it's to give them freedom as writers to create stories and so on.
Sure. And I know this is like off tangent and doesn't probably make sense, but has any of you ever heard of a game called Tell Me Why?
No.
It was, I think it's Tell Me Why. I've probably got the name wrong, but it's a. Is it Tell Me Why? It's a.
Was that a Bad Boys song? No. I don't know. Anyway,
it's a episodic narrative game by Don't Nod Entertainment. It was free on Xbox a while ago, and the reason why I'm bringing it up is it's a story about two twins trying to remember something about the past, but the twins remember the same event differently. They've not got the same memory, and you've got to, in the game, you've got to choose whose memory you choose. And it kind of makes me think that with Assassin's Creed, you could play two characters in the same time zone, but one will always remember it differently. You can't rely on memory.
It's a good point, and I would add to that when, and this is the only, it's explored more in Liberation, because you unlock the true memories, don't you, with Erudito. But that's the only issue I have, and I think maybe we should talk about the modern day for a bit. The only issue I have with I don't know what you call it, whether you call it the Helix games or the Abstergo Entertainment games, is with Ezio games, or up to AC3, you are reliving the true memories, or the best reconstruction of the memories that we can get of Ezio and Connor. But in these games, if you overthink the problem, are you really experiencing Arno's memories, or is this Abstergo's edited reconstruction? You could sort of, I mean, I know it's covered in some of the transmedia, like the Abstergo handbook talks about how they present Edward as a vicious pirate, and actually, of course, we know he isn't. But so it's the only kind of issue I have with that kind of framing of it. It's a game that Abstergo have created, is that, well, in that case, can you really trust what you're seeing on the screen as the player? I know we're going into sort of Inception level level of detail now, but I wonder. Let's talk a bit about the modern day, Wolfie. Modern day Bishop. Thoughts?
It kind of works, but it's pretty lacking.
That was super diplomatic, I've got to say. I'm impressed.
You have Bishop, you have Deacon, who we all know as Sean. I don't know. It just seemed like they didn't know what to do with it, and so they did as little with it as they could, I guess.
Mm.
We do have different, I mean, of course, you're in a simulation. We have server bridges, we have the helix rifts, and then we have the whole thing with them trying to find sages and pieces of Eden. So, I mean, all the elements are there, but it's pretty weak.
Yeah.
It's pretty weak.
I can't say any different. The only thing I would say that I did like, and it's a bit of a stretch, but I did like that as you play the co-op again, you've got Bishop briefing you on the history and the event and what's going on. But that is, yeah, that's about it.
I kind of feel that this is kind of a backwards approach, and I will explain. But I actually think Unity's modern day is perfect as a statement point, and that kind of is for a lot of years people have argued that modern day should be cut from Assassin's Creed. It's not good, but when you look at Unity cutting modern day, you kind of realize that it loses that explanation. Why is Arno? Why are you playing Arno? Who is Bishop? Why is she talking to you about, like, you've hacked into it if you choose to watch this file, joining the Assassins? It poses so many questions that it will never answer, and it kind of makes you think, well, hang on a minute, modern day may not be perfect, but it's needed.
Yes. Yeah.
Unity is great. Yeah, I love French Revolution, but why am I initiate? What am I doing? Like, am I doing a Charlotte de Cruz and wearing a VR headset right now? I also had the vision that it was going to be a trilogy of the Templars hacking into this feed and hunting us down, and us going on the run. That was how it was going to end, in my opinion. The last game would be after Syndicate, would be us being told to run by Bishop, and it's just a modern day of us first person and watching our doors get kicked in, and we're just on the run, and we're just running into a van with Rebecca and Sean and getting the hell out of there. That was like cool idea, but
yeah, that would have been kind of cool, because it also would have kind of reflected how in the RPG trilogy, especially in Valhalla, we see all these notes where they're basically telling the hidden ones, run, get out of here. This it would have been kind of a neat throwback, I think.
I suppose thinking about it more, the modern day, because there's no interaction, whether it's third person like the earlier games or even first person like with Black Flag and Rogue, Liberation doesn't have a modern day, does it? It has the Erudito sections. I can't actually remember. I don't think there is any modern day. Doesn't matter. Anyway, there's no jeopardy. Like in the earlier games, you had to do things as Desmond, like you had, and they weren't difficult puzzles and they weren't difficult parkour routes. But for example, you were parkouring through the Monteriggioni Vault, or in AC3, you are scaling those heights above the MMA fight or the huge crane. But because you're not doing anything in the modern day, in Unity, there's no jeopardy. So there's just no driver. There's no interest.
I think they try to insert the risk with the server bridges. I mean, we hear Sean, saying, don't get caught, and you're playing as Arno, but you're trying to escape the Templars seeking you out or whatever. So they tried.
Yeah. I think this conversation leads, and we must keep an eye on the time, because this may become our record-breaking longest episode, Declan, which is great. I could talk for hours more, but hey, the clock is ticking. Declan, go ahead, mate.
I forgot what I was going to say.
All right, I'm going to continue my totally seamless transition from one question to another.
We do need to keep an eye on the time. I'm up at 7 o'clock in the morning.
All right, so maybe we'll finish on this one. So, bearing in mind we've talked about the modern day, we've talked about the server bridges, which kind of leap around randomly from medieval to the Bastille to World War II. I've heard from multiple people like you, Declan, from Louise, from Six Keys, and maybe from Wolfie as well, that the original draft or the original kind of scope for this game was much more ambitious, very different, and would have covered a very long time period. What can you tell me? Because I have done no Googling and no reading about this. It's just a note I scribbled down to maybe talk about. So what was the original scope of the story?
The original scope, if I remember correctly, it had nothing to do with the really weird Project Helix menu, but it was you follow the Sword of Eden through time, so as it changes from one hand to the other. And I think, imagine, I'm really going to regret saying this, but imagine Assassin's Creed Infinity. It was just going to be multiple titles pieced together in one game to make one big ending. That's as far as I remember it being told. The weird thing, to be honest, it was like, I don't think it would have worked. I kind of don't like the idea of it. But it could have been a unique, ambitious title, but how it was going to piece together is just, I don't think they've actually talked about it.
I do like the helix rifts in the game, the different time periods, but it is definitely odd. It seems pretty out of place, and
Yeah.
I don't know if it was cut content or whatever, but there's not a whole lot of explanation for it. It's fun to do, but it almost, and now anyway, seems like padding, just extra filler. So.
You're right. It certainly is fun. It's a good place to practice your parkour, but what it has to do with with Arno, Elise, and the Templars and the Assassins is a bit thin, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose we do see just a little bit of that story of the Piece of Eden because we have the prologue with Jacques de Molay and the man. What's the guy called? Is it just called Jacques de Molay's assistant? I think that's what he's listed as in the cast. But anyway, poor guy doesn't get a name. We see the sword, and then of course it appears again at the end. But now I'm thinking about it. What does that prologue do for the game other than establish? I suppose it's there to establish that there is a Piece of Eden in existence that we're going to see again. But it's a bit of a stretch.
I think too. It kind of also too sets up. The Templars have been around for a very long time, and I think the curse that is placed upon King Philippe and his generations down the line.
Yes, that was it.
Yeah.
So I think we may have to wrap up. This is nearly 2 hours long.
I think we need closing thoughts, don't we?
Closing thoughts is this has been a very interesting topic that nearly took 2 hours. But I think the closing thoughts on my end, and then I'll pass to you, James, and then Wolfie, is Unity is a game that, like French wine, ages perfectly.
Ooh, nice one.
Oh, nice.
It was not the best game at release. I've seen the whole reviews, and I don't think I understand its criticism. I'm going to be honest. I do understand why it was panned to start with. I will hold my hands up. But the care, attention they give to the game with the updates, to the fact of there's writing in French on the walls of each little place you see that has real translations, real messages about Viva la Revolution, is just how much love this game has, and you have to play it. That's it. Go play it. What are you doing listening to me for? Go play it.
That's a great summary. All I can add is I love this game. I think it's fantastic. And I love Arno and I love Elise. Maybe a bit too much, but I love this game.
Same here. It's definitely a game that I miss a whole lot when I'm not playing it. A lot of the other games, I can let them go for a while without playing it, but I miss when I'm not playing Unity. So I love Unity.
That's one for the poster. This is a game you will miss playing. That's great.
So I want to thank you both for joining today. I'm actually pretty hyped to continue these Unity discussions, but I think I'm kind of scared how long we're going to take. So, thank you very much for listening. If you have any thoughts on Assassin's Creed Unity, why you like it, maybe pros and cons about the game, please feel free to message me on Twitter at ACLet'sTalk or James at JamesLiquid. You can also email me anything at Assassin'sCreedLet'sTalk@gmail.com. If you would like to have your own thoughts on the next episode or join an episode, you can hit us up on the social media anytime. We'll be happy to answer. And yeah, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
You're welcome, and thanks for joining.